What he just said has Blues fans fired up as this one key detail on Justin Carbonneau separates him from the rest of the prospects in the NHL as Doug Armstrong has a huge decision to make with his former first round pick going into next season. We're going to break down these quotes from Justin Carbonneau, a quote from a former player that should have fans fired up, and how Justin Carbonneau fits into this lineup and so much more later on this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. Before we get into that, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, we're trying to reach our goal of 3,500 subscribers, just 6 away. So if 6 of you guys watching this is enjoying Daily Blues content and you want to hit that free subscribe button, it would help us out a bunch. And in return, we'll give you updates from all around the Blues this offseason going into next year. But Darius, let's just get straight into this today, where we did see an article drop today by Rutherford. It's a great article. Go read it. It's going to be down in the description. And before we get into the quotes from this, just Justin Carbonneau as a whole is a polarizing player, coming in looking like a bull in a china shop during prospect camp, dominating in the queue last season. Going back to the queue again, what is your overall thoughts on just how much he's developing in a short offseason so far going into next year?
Well, first of all, if he makes the team, we're going to be selling Bull in a China Shop shirts here on the channel. So I just wanted to announce that first of all. But he's been unbelievable. Like, he's ripping up the QMJHL. If he does get sent back, I'm really looking for him to develop different aspects of his game, right? And work on his weaknesses, develop his weaknesses and get better at, his overall game, all 3 zones. And it doesn't mean he has to be a shutdown player or anything like that, but just be more responsible in all 3 zones. We know what he can do offensively. He's electric. He's explosive. And he uses his frame to his advantage. And he's not the biggest guy, but he knows how to use his frame. So I'm looking for him to add more elements to his game. And I think that's very exciting heading into next year. And I do want to get into some of his quotes as well. Like, we're going to do that in a little bit in this video. So stay tuned for that, because some of them are pretty crazy. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do at the NHL level.
Because I think the biggest thing is the prototypical power forward going to join this team in the near future. It feels like we know how good Carbonneau is offensively. Like you said, working on his defensive game is going to be the next step. But we do know Carbonneau continues to want to get better. He goes in during this article and says a Kobe mindset. If you think you're good, well, you're not good enough. He was the first one in the gym, the last one out. I've learned more and more about him and everything he did to get where he was. He talked about wanting to continue to develop his game and not be satisfied with where he's to right now after being drafted, which is something you love to see from such a young player, especially after such a dominant season, scoring 46 goals. Some people would be fine with this, but Carbonneau wants to continue getting better. But it's not just Carbonneau. And listen, we're going to get into how he fits in this lineup and players that might have to be on the move to get room for him to join this Blues team. But a former NHL player, Yannick Tremblay, did speak out as he's working with Carbonneau this offseason. He got the size, he got the skill, and he's willing to do what needs to be done. So starting from that, the ceiling is pretty high. With the ingredients of always wanting to do more for the impact he was on the team, yeah, for sure, I see him having a pretty good impact in professional hockey. I see him with the Blues doing really good things. Now, the thing is, yes, working with him, you're going to hype up someone that you are training right now. But what is your thoughts on just everything pointing in the direction of wanting to get better? Former players speaking that he has a high ceiling with this Blues team.
I always look at how, former players talk about certain draft picks and the things that they say about him. And I think this is a really good sign that, we always talk about how will certain players and will their skills, translate to the next level. And he's saying, Tremblay right here is saying that, yes, it's going to, and he's going to make a significant impact with the St. Louis Blues. The other thing, to go back to his quote, specifically, obviously Carbonneau's quote here about the Mamba mentality. First of all, you love to see that, because Kobe was one of the best players of all time in the NBA, right? And because of his mentality and the way that he pushed through, and it was never good enough, and he just wanted to be great. So you like to see this from such a young player. And I think there's a lot of times where you draft guys because they have the skill, all of these things, and they come in and they're just okay being in the league. I'm in the NHL. I'm doing my thing. I'm one-dimensional, whatever it is. I don't really care. I'm going to come in, score my 40 goals a year, and that's it. But this guy already at this age strikes me as the type that he wants to continue to get better. He wants to add different elements to his game. He wants to be great, right? And I think that is a great personality trait, if you want to call it that, to have in a player, where he's going to come in, he's going to say, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at, and I'm not just going to continue to develop my shot, which is already good, right? I'm going to come in, add different elements to my game. And what can I do from the mental aspect of the game to make sure that I'm ready and prepared for high pressure situations, all of these things. So the fact that he's already talking about this at this age and former players are speaking out about him in this way, I think Blues fans should be absolutely fired up about this because it looks like you just have a good character coming into the organization, which is, a really good thing. Because, like I said, there's so many times around the league, and I'm sure it's happened to the Blues as well. You draft a guy, he comes in, he has a skill, all of these things, right? But he doesn't really want to get better or doesn't apply himself to do any of those things. Carbonneau strikes me as the type that's going to do that, continue to get better. And like I said, I think that starts probably in the QMJHL this year. But listen, like he's working hard this summer. There's a real world he ends up on the team. And like I said, if you're a GM, if you're a coach, if they really like you and you look like you can make an impact and consistently, they'll move bodies for you. They'll make a spot for you.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And it really transitions into with this team. The Blues did an awesome job this offseason. Doug Armstrong, in his final offseason with the Blues, he's going to work with the team before Steen takes over. But he did an incredible job filling out this team. And if you're going to fit Carbonneau within this lineup that already has great talent around, there are two guys that really stand out the most. And listen, I don't think you should fire them into the moon and get rid of them if you have to move capital. But the biggest thing is on that right side, Carbonneau would fit perfectly on that third line right wing if he's ready to play in the NHL. Playing with Suter and playing with Jake Neighbors would be outstanding, but you need to make a room for this. And I think it gets interesting when you're looking at two guys. Joseph playing on that fourth line. He might be in and out of the lineup. Last year, playing in 60 games, putting up 14 points. What's your thoughts on Doug Armstrong going in? If you can get value for these guys and put him straight into the lineup, that would be a win-win. But could you see them, if Carbonneau is really ready once you get into training camp in September and October, do you think they'll trade out some pieces in that bottom six?
Well, the short answer, yes. The longer winded answer, of course, like you mentioned, it all depends on Justin Carbonneau and his progression and how he looks in camp, because you can look really good in one game, but do you look good consistently, right? He's going to have to do that every single game. It's going to have to look like he belongs, not just belongs, but is playing really well and can make an impact at the NHL level. And then they might make space for him. And in doing that, if you look at Joseph, we see all the comments and down below, right? He could be the odd man out, right? But I do believe that they would move off and you free up some salary cap space. Let's not forget that. Obviously, you're going to have LTIR space that's going to kick in at the start of the year, but you free up even more space. You can go out and make a move at the deadline. You're going to accumulate cap space throughout the year anyway. So I think it's an interesting option, definitely an option that they're going to look at, but I think it all comes down to how do certain guys look in training camp. There could be somebody that makes the team that none of us have on our radar, right? It happens every single year. So I'm looking for that as well, because the Blues have a plethora of really, really good prospects that we've already been covering on the channel that I think, could surprise. So I think it's definitely an option. You free up more salary cap space. And I think that they are, in this way, there's so many guys on this team and in the depth chart that I think that they're challenging some of the younger guys, come into camp, rise above all this stuff. And if you do play really well consistently, we'll make a spot for you. But you got to come in, you got to rise above the rest of the guys that we have in line here.
And I mean, the big thing is it could be Joseph, it could be Sundqvist, though Sundqvist is making nearly half of what Joseph is making, and his impact on that fourth line would be big. But Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? What is your thoughts on the mindset from Carbonneau? You can have a skilled player that doesn't put in work ethic. Neil Yakupov, for example, with the Edmonton Oilers and a former Blue. But let's not talk about that point of the career. But what is your guys' thoughts on Carbonneau's development, how he wants to continue getting better? Former NHL players speaking on him. What's your thoughts on this Blues lineup? And is there anyone you would move if Carbonneau is ready, maybe even a Dvorsky is ready, within this lineup that you would like to see the Blues maybe move on from to open up more cap space? Let us know down below. Way down there, hit the like, subscribe, share this with your friends. Once again, we're trying to reach a goal of 3,500. So if you made it this far, just go down and hit it. It takes 2 seconds. It helps us out a ton, and we appreciate it so much, and we'll continue pumping out content. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care, Blues fans.